Okay, today we've got a little bit of a project here that I've been working on. This mower has been beat to death and it was in very bad shape, mechanical wise. And the first thing we're going to start with is the motor. All of the bolt holes were stripped out on the bottom of the motor. One of the bosses that had the threads in it was completely stripped out, so I had to rebuild it with weld and remachine the holes. You see that right there, that's all completely rebuilt with weld and remachined. So now we're going to start the task of new bearings, new bushings, all of the parts in the side of this motor that was trashed because he never changed the oil in it either. Preview a little fun here. Okay, you've got a nice new mechanical water pump seal in there. And we can't really put anything else together because the camshaft has to be installed in the motor in order to get the right timing. And the water pump impeller bolts to the end of that. I'm going to clean this up a little bit and put another O-ring on there, but that'll be done before it goes into the motor. The next thing I'm going to do, and you can't really forget this either, there's a spring that goes in there and a check ball. This is for the pressure relief on the oil pump. Okay, and the oil pump goes in there just like that. A bit of oil on there, that's good. And that gets driven by this affair here. It runs off of the same gearing as the crankshaft, or the camshaft. Before we put that in there, we've got an oil filter to put in here. The oil hadn't been changed at all, and that pump was working so hard that it actually sucked the filter, the screen apart. So we're going to put a nice new one in there. Okay, now let's get this thing cleaned up a little bit before we put it back together. Okay. A little bit of oil residue on there, but that's good. That's exactly what we want. Goes in here and rides just like that. And we put this little keeper pin in here. It's actually not a keeper pin, it's a drive pin for the oil pump. And we're going to put that guy down in there and rotate it until everything drops into place. Hello. Well, this might take a little bit of practice. Oh, the pin came out of place. And we'll put that about. There we go. Drop it right down in place. Now the only thing I got to do is install these 3 bolts to hold everything in position, but I got to put a little Loctite on it. Now that we've gone as far as we can go on the crankcase half on the bottom, I think you can see I had to take the bottom caps off the connecting rods, and I did that so that I could slide the crankshaft out to replace the top seal. It's no big deal. We'll get this thing lubed up and put the caps back on them and go on with the next step. Okay, here we go. Got the rod caps back on and torqued. Got the camshaft lubed up and in. Everything turns nice. The next thing we're going to do, because Kawasaki doesn't use, along with a bunch of other manufacturers, they don't use gaskets to seal the crankcase halves anymore. So I've got some of the silicone material that they use for making that gasket. Put a couple of O-rings in there. That's for the oil pressure galleries from the oil pump. And get ready to put the bottom half of the case on. Put the sealant on there and just barely tapped it down until it's seated. I'm not going to be in a real hurry to put the bolts in and torque them down. I want that to settle just a little bit. And go back in there and torque them down, and I guarantee a tight seal. Okay, got a couple of bolts in the lower case holding things together, just snug but not tightened up or torqued. So now we're going to put this little O-ring over here in the groove where it goes for the water pump. Have the other half of the mechanical seal go on there, and then the impeller goes on there, and then the bolt. Well, I'm going to have to hold everything together and put a little bit of Loctite on that bolt, and then we'll do the cover. Okay, the impeller's in place, and by the way, that bolt right there is a left-hand thread. Everything rolls over like it's supposed to. So let's take and put the gasket on. And then we'll put the bottom housing on for the water pump. And then we'll just hand start all these bolts here for the water pump. There's 3 of them that go clear through the water pump into the block. Well, fast forward a little bit. Got the motor mounted back on the mower. Got the flywheel back on. Now I think I'm going to busy myself here for a little bit with getting the gap set for the magnet for the spark, getting everything cleaned up here, and then a couple more things done. Got the bracket and the fan mounted for the bottom side of the radiator. Got both coil packs set for the proper gap. We should have plenty of spark with no problems. And we're ready to go on to the next step, which will probably be the radiator. Got the radiator all mounted up where it's supposed to be. The intake without the filters. I got to get new filters yet. The exhaust is on it, brand new muffler, new oil filter, overflow is going. Making pretty good progress on it. Once I get the back end buttoned up, then we got some more problems to take care of. Spindle, guy never greased it. Oh well. That was completely trashed. And I got a wheel motor off because that thing was leaking like a sieve. Most of it's sitting over here. Got to order the parts for it yet, just one piece at a time. And something about neither one of the front wheels having bearings left in it that are recognizable as bearings go.